Hi everybody, and welcome to the last in the FT Weekend Presents talks hosted with Photo London. It's great to have you all here. I'm very much looking forward to this evening's panel, and I would like to introduce you to the host for tonight, which is Zelda Cheatle, curator, artist, gallerist, editor of a new book, The Photograph That Changed My Life, which is going to be put into the chat. So you can see the link to the book there. It's published with Art Cinema. I would like to also welcome the panelists for this evening, Awoiska van der Molen, Arthur Tress, Duane Michals, Joy Gregory. It's absolutely wonderful to have you all here this evening. Zelda, thank you so much for your incredible book, which I adore. More than 50 artists, photographers, filmmakers, musicians, and collectors housed in one place, describing the photograph that changed their life, which has just been a wonderful read and completely joyful and brilliant and fascinating. So thank you. And I'm going to hand over immediately to you. Just to say that if you have questions, please do pop those into the Q&A chat bar, and we will have we'll have a go at looking through those. I know there are a lot of people here tonight, and we will do our best to answer the questions as they come at the end. So enjoy this evening, and it's a real pleasure to welcome everybody here this evening. Thank you. And this morning, this afternoon to the American audiences. Zelda, over to you.
Oh, thank you, Emma. That's a really lovely introduction. I think you've kind of said nearly everything that needs to be said about the book. I mean, there's more than 50 people, each of whom have picked something really often very, very surprising. And some people have dug very deep to find what it was that was something very important to them. And the thing that's nice at how the book has evolved is that the stories that people tell and the pictures that they have chosen. So rather than a picture telling 1,000 words, it's actually more like 1,000 words are telling a picture. So the reason that there's no picture on the cover of the book, which looks like this, is that inside every single double page has got somebody's choice and somebody's words about that choice. So I thought we would start this evening because two of the people here right at the beginning of the book, we'll start with Arthur Tress, because he picked Duane Michals' pictures and wrote a very eloquent essay about exactly why he chose Duane and his work. And astonishingly, Arthur even had a diary record. He'd gone to one of Duane's lectures, and Arthur had kept the diary and the notes that he had made about Duane's lecture all that time ago, I think in 1970 possibly. It's extraordinary. So anyway, Arthur, now it's over to you to discuss why you picked Duane and how this has been an important picture in your life.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
I first met Duane probably around 1970 at one of his shows at the Underground Gallery in Manhattan, which was one of the first photography galleries. And I asked him if I could show him some of my work. And I was just beginning at that time my series Dream Collector, where I kind of was trying to break away from photojournalism and try to expand my own idea of photography. Around the early 1970s, there were a couple of other photographers exploring such ideas, such as Jerry Ulisman or Leslie Krims. And we were trying to break away from the Museum of Modern Art, John Charkovsky orthodoxy, that there was only a certain way of doing photography, kind of Lee Friedlander or Gary Winogrand or Deanne Arbus. And So Duane was certainly one of the people who were first going against that, and a strong advocate for a more expanded view of what photography could be. Later, he did a show, and I saw one of his images, The Spirit Leaves the Body, and it made a great impression on me. And first of all, it was a sequence, a series of photos that told a small story in about 10 images. And that was really quite extraordinary for the time. The impact that had on me was quite amazing. And it kind of inspired me to do my own kind of sequence that I'll show you. Okay. It's called Shadow. It's a novel in photos. And it's just 100 photos of my own shadow, but it kind of tells a narrative story. And it deals with light. And kind of, it's sort of like a dream experience. Another idea, Duane felt that photograph by itself could be annotated, that it could be expanded with writing. You know, that seems a very ordinary idea for us today, but at that time, photographers were not expected to write anything, you know. So when Duane began writing, it sort of also inspired me to do my own kind of create my own fictional worlds. And that became the little sequence called Teapot Opera, where each picture has a few little words. Later, the sequel to Teapot Opera, Fish Tank Sonata, also had little poems, 100 little poems. Now,
so that's the one, Arthur, we showed together in my gallery. Do you remember?
yes.
Yeah.
But again, it was kind of Duane's insistence and sort of propagandizing that photographers can do collages, you can paint on photographs, you can add words, you know, etc. That really was sort of up against the grain of what was considered photography during the early 70s. Another thing that I think unconsciously affected me by the image of the spirit leaving the bodies, it was a nude man lying on a bed, very sensuously photographed. And there was very little male nudes being done in photography at that time. Obviously, there had been George Platt Lyons and Minor White doing that kind of work, but it was in the closet at the time.
Shall I just hold it up here so that people can see?
Okay, so I think Duane perhaps unconsciously, but maybe more subtly, was bringing gay material into his work. The idea at that time, he did a early sequence called Chance Meeting, which was kind of like two gay men cruising each other but ignoring each other and passing each other by. And I was doing a series of portraits of gay men in Central Park's Ramble, which actually has just been rediscovered. So I think it was Duane doing that early work with the male nude, even though he was using it for more philosophical and spiritual reasons. It kind of opened up again for me and other photographers to start dealing with the homoerotic world of fantasy. And that sort of became a book actually just done 10 years later of interesting gay fantasies. So I think that's, I also, at that time, I was showing my work to Duane about once a month, and he was very encouraging. So I think that's an important part of Duane's persona, that he encourages other photographers and artists to kind of expand their own personal visions.
I think that is such a lovely tribute to Duane. I think it's wonderful, Arthur. And I can see that I found when I was sort of looking about what I might say about either of you this evening, and that you were both called mythological protagonists of visionary quests. And I think maybe that's true.
Well,
would you call yourself a mythological protagonist?
I think the themes of a lot of my own work have to do with these archetypical journeys.
Yeah.
Kind of rites of passage. And I think Duane provided the techniques for exploring that realm of photography, taking it out of the mundane world. And I think that affected many people later on. The realm of dream, of myths. Originally, I began my own career doing ethnographical studies, tribal people around the world. And I could see how they related to the world of dream and myth much differently than we did. And I thought it was time to bring that back into our own culture, which had it's always been there on a kind of unconscious level.
But I think that you have a very strong sort of narrative element in your work. I mean, recently in lockdown, you've been photographing all of these empty schools and colleges that have got nobody in them. I mean, that again is like to do with like, you're building another story there.
Yes. It's rather interesting. Around 2000, I kind of had another photograph that influenced me, changed my life. And I think it was some work by Edward Weston that he did in Mexico. And I've kind of returned recently to just simple seeing. But I've been photographing empty schools and empty Silicon Valley parking lots, but they deal with silence and sort of contemplative spaces. And it all derives, and I think a lot of Duane's work also derives from surrealism, de Chirico, Magritte, who had that kind of meditative silence within their imagery. And I think as an older person, it's a realm that I enjoy exploring.
Oh, I think that's wonderful, Arthur. Well, do you think this is the perfect moment to hand over to Duane? Because he also has chosen, in fact, two important photographs in his life. There's only one that's in the book, but I'll just hold up the book and you can see the Ager picture. And so, Duane, would you like to respond to Arthur?
Yes. I thought the subject was not the photograph that changed my life. I thought the subject was the photograph that made me wet my pants. It's an entirely different genre, which I'm not prepared to discuss in public. But I know I am quite old. At any rate, Arthur is original. Just right back at, no, he really is. There are a lot of photographers taking street pictures, but Arthur is extremely, he's one of a kind, he's authentic. And I don't know anybody else would attack or track the same subjects. I don't know where to begin actually, because I had the luxury of being old, very old, super old, oldorama. I'm a drama, oldorama. I like to rhyme-ish. And there's so many references. One of the things which got me into, which really affected me, which I didn't give you for this book because it really wasn't. Well, here's what happened. In 1930, it was a very good year. It was a very good year. Anyway, in 1930, I was looking through a copy of Harper's Bazaar. Don't ask why. And I saw this amazing photograph. I still remember it. It was a nude woman holding a mirror, a big mirror in front of herself. And she was reflected in the mirror. And I thought, what the hell's that? How could she be behind the mirror and be in front of the mirror, in the mirror? It's impossible. And I love the contradiction. I found that, I should have talked about this actually, not the one I chose. I love the contradiction that was an impossible photograph. And then more I examined it, I realized it was not a photograph, it was actually a painting by somebody named René Magritte. And see, I love the contradiction. I don't like photographs that tell me what I already know. I like photographs that contradict my assumptions, that challenge my idea, the appropriateness of something. So that Magritte image led me to, I'm going to go through the whole story, going to Brussels, I guess about 1955, and photographing him. And another part of that whole package is any photograph by Ache. The photograph we reproduced in the book was not the one I wanted. We couldn't find the one I wanted, but it was a store window in a Paris department store with a lot of reflections, with mannequins. And that also brings me to Balthus, because the French painter who did amazing street scenes, amazing set up street scenes, which also went into my head was stewing, and that was the paprika in the stew of my head. And then, where was I going with this?
Balthus?
Yes, but when I looked at these windows, Magritte's, I mean, they're interchangeable for me. When I looked at Ache's windows, these fake mannequins, all dressed up in contemporary clothing for 1913 or whenever it was, it looked like a theater to me. I tend to view everything as theater. I loved when Arthur did his little stage sets. I thought those were terrific. And I did a project called Empty New York, and I photographed a barber shop, and it was empty, of course, and on the wall of the barber shop was a coat rack and a man's white jacket. And I saw that white jacket and I thought, oh, that's his suit. He's an actor. He comes in, he puts on his barber costume, and he does his cutting and snipping, and he does his barber act, and then he leaves. So that fed into the Ache, looking at empty rooms, which became, the older the room, the more interesting they are. And all these are stage sets. We don't see them that way, but they're stage sets. We perform the mise en scène of our little dramas, and we put on our costumes. And so to me, life is a grand theater, sometimes a grand guignol, but nevertheless a grand theater. And we're all actors in our little dramas, and we don't see any of that. We see everything as fact, and I see fact as mystery. I see fact as theater, sometimes burlesque. And so Ache became a source in the pot with Magritte and with my questioning of reality. So I was lucky that I did not come up through photo schools. I did not learn the photo rules. I did not have to unlearn Gary Winogrand, yuck, 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 yuck. But I did, but I did love, you know, Robert Frank, I think is spectacular. All those photographs are dramas. And the more drama in a room and challenge, I like things that challenge. See, Arthur challenges you in his theaters. And can you imagine he lugged this fish tank around the country? Hopefully, I didn't ever ask Arthur. I hope he didn't lug it around the country filled with water. Arthur, you didn't leave the water out. It would have been so much easier. So I think, the more serious you are, the more silly you have to be. It's kind of a yin and yang. It's a balance of perceptions. Well, I brought 310 words to use, and for this talk, and I've used up 301.
Well, I think, Duane, someone has written about you. They say that you combine poetry and the tragicomedy and the humorous and the plain humorous. Would you say that sums you up?
I don't know. That's for others to. Yes, let's just say yes.
Okay,
but there's something else. Number one, I said I like contradiction, and I like to be surprised, not shocked. I think shock is very cheap. Getting back to gay photography, I think Mapplethorpe. It meant Mapplethorpe when his whips up the ass and all that business is pure shock. The photographer becomes the artist when he brings insight into what he's photographing. It's one thing to describe something. Yes, that's exactly what Paris Eiffel Tower looks like. But you have to bring insight into why you respond. So it's the annotating. Letters, text has always gone with photographs. You pick up a newspaper and there's a picture of Donald Trump falling down a flight of steps, landing on his head. And the subtitles, the caption says, Donald Trump falls down a flight of steps getting off of Air Force 69 and lands on his head and breaks his hair. Captions tell you what you can see in the photograph. I tell you what you cannot see in the photograph. I did a picture called This Photograph Is My Proof. No, that's another picture I did. I did 3 pictures. There's another one called, it's a picture of a bar on 3rd Avenue. Nobody's there. And it says, there are things not seen here in this picture. So people believe that when you look at a photograph, that's a fact of what was there. But I talk about, I walked into the bar. It was a hot day. I wanted a drink. I drank a beer. I saw a cockroach run up the leg of the bar. I listened to the music, which was somebody, Johnny Cash, somebody singing Midsummer Night's Dream. No, that was Shakespeare. The Shakespeareans sang Midsummer Night's Dream. It's another rock group. Let's see, Ziggy and the Shakespeareans. I think that's funny. And then I talked about the whole atmosphere. So the photograph shows you what it looked like. And I filled in all the other experiences you have in that room. And it was a nice photograph, but it was expanded to the 10th power by the key word is expression. I'm an expressionist. How well do you express yourself? I'm a photographer. I do write. You have to reinvent. I'm not Ansel Adams. Why should my pictures look like him? You have to reinvent photography, and the way you have to reinvent your life, every second of your life.
But Duane, I think you were the first person really to be able to combine your writing with an image, and it was hugely influential that people realized that you could combine like words and pictures, and you did it absolutely poignantly and beautifully.
I'm still doing it.
Good.
No, but there was another thing I said was vaguely amusing. I had in my mind. Josiah, do you remember what I had in my mind? He's my go-to guy. He's the guy behind me who puts his hand up my shirt and I do this.
Brilliant.
But I did have an interesting thought.
But the thing that I find fascinating is,
I don't want to forget my interesting thought.
okay.
I've come up with a new word for, in photography, we have documentaries, we have landscapes, we have news photography, reportage, portraiture. I have something, there's not a word for poets, photographers who are poets. Arthur Tress, I call them poets, P-H-O-E-T, and they do poetry. And poetry would be, I can't remember those names. Who are those two ladies? Who's the lady that killed herself? If you answer the question, who? She was at Rhode Island School of Design. Francesca Woodman.
Oh, yes, fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. Arthur is a poet. Teskey is a poet. Yulsman is a poet. I'm a poet, and we all do poetry. So remember, you heard it here first.
Okay, that's good. I think we'll have to enlarge on that one.
Right.
But didn't you once say that what you cannot see is infinitely more interesting than that what you can see?
Oh, absolutely. Think of when you go, see, this is a dream. I am so amazed by Shakespeare. And, I just finished the biography of Tom Stoppard. My God, what a genius. He's spectacular. I'm crazy about him. And I discovered I photographed him a long time ago. I love doing portraits, although I never claim portraits reveal anything. Portraits describe anatomy. They do not reveal anything unless you get into the nature of the person. That's why my Magritte photographs were in the nature of Magritte's work. Somebody's nose is not that person. And then I did another picture of somebody and I heard he liked it, and I was very happy about that. And then I found out the reason he liked it because it made his nose look small. I did not know he hated his nose, and any photograph that made his nose look small, he loved. So we all bring vanity every single inch of our life, except and so if you could get into the nature. I did Kramer, who was on, a very funny, lovely guy who was on Seinfeld, and I did his portrait, and I had him sitting at a table, reading a book, pouring into an empty glass from a bottle of milk, but the milk is going all over the table because he's not looking what he's doing, he's reading the book, and it was shtick. He was doing shtick, and that's what comedians do. So all those Diane Arbus portraits and Richard Avedon portraits, I call those passport pictures. Oh, I think is really the bottom of that barrel is Drenica Rensky. Those Israeli soldiers, a bunch of skinny guys in army uniforms who wouldn't kill a fly, standing looking in the camera. And what I'm interested in is, what do they think about the Palestinians? Are they Hasidic Jews? I know the answer. Are they circumcised? Yes. What do they think? That's funny. See, my bottom line, if it's funny, I'll say it. And even no. So describing, could have been Dutch soldiers. Nothing. That's description. That's what they look like. You are not what you look like. I'm much nicer than my face. Tell me I'm much nicer than my face.
You look fantastic. Absolutely gorgeous, Duane.
Kisses. Okay. All right. Ask me another hard one.
I would like to know, I'd like to know if you still believe that if you hear that little voice in your head that says, oh, that's an interesting idea, let's just do it. Are you still prepared to do it?
Absolutely. Doesn't everybody hear voices? They used to say, kill. I used to step on flies. But no, I think everything is in the mind, everything you see. That's why you can't photograph the mind, you can only photograph facts. My photographs ultimately are failures because they're approximations. They're only suggestions. They're descriptions. the New York Times asked about 5 photographers to do self-portraits for the Sunday magazine, and I was one of them. And what I did was, it's a picture of me sitting at a table, and I'm holding a book up. You see the back of my head, you don't see my face. I'm looking in the book, and I wrote in the book in my hand, I think about thinking. Because what's interesting is not my nose or my bald head or my big ears. What's interesting is my mind. So who cares what I look like? But if I could photograph, my photographs are the content of my mind, not the contents of my nose. And I'll tell you one little secret. You want to hear a secret?
Yep.
Okay. Don't tell anybody. No. Okay. Here's the secret. Here's what I tell when I occasionally do classes. I do classy classes. I expect everybody to be dressed haute couture. You cannot get in without ladies in Chanel and me without Lagerfeld jock straps. Anyway, I made that up. That's not true at all. But here's, look, I'm forgetting what I wanted to tell you. I got so dazzled by my filthy rhetoric that I forgot where I was going with that. So what did you say?
About teaching classes. You were talking about teaching classes and about.
Oh, yeah. So here's what I tell them. How to introduce yourself to yourself. That's ironic, is that the only thing we've ever known is ourselves as experience, as event, and as consciousness in the universe, and we have no awareness of it. We are so prepackaged. Okay, we hold that thought. But I want to tell you about prepackaging. Is the time okay?
You've got a couple of minutes left, and then you're going to hand over to Joy Gregory.
Do this whole talk in Yiddish if you like. Oh, anyway, no, I'm sorry. You're going to miss 2 very important points. Shut up, Duane. Okay, I will. Here's what I tell students to do. Everybody has a secret. Here's your assignment. You have a secret. Write on a piece of paper the 1 sentence about your secret. And I would have written, I did not like my father. Oh my God, you didn't like it. Don't. I would write on it, and then I would put that piece of paper, fold it up in the back drawer under my underwear where nobody would ever look. And then 2 weeks later, I'd take the second piece of paper out and I'd write a letter to myself. Nobody has to see it. I would write on the piece of paper, I did not like my father, and I don't think he loved me. Oh, fuck's sake. How could you say it, honey? But that's the truth. That's the point. It's not the bullshit of somebody else, an encounter on the street with some fat lady wearing an umbrella, and on her tits it says big tits with arrows pointing to her breasts. That's a curiosity item. It's easy to photograph curiosities. It's more difficult. The truth is too subtle, and it's that simple. It's that simple. And unless you free yourself, not only will you be a good photographer, but you'll be free yourself to be a photographer and free yourself to be a human being. Before you die, tick, 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 tick. Oh, my time is running. I can see. I'll take what's behind door number 4. Did I win? Just how did I win?
Well, what I want you to do is stay where you are, but we're going to hand on to Joy Gregory now, who's someone that has known you and Arthur's work, and so she's very pleased to be here. She makes lovely things, but don't go away, because once Joy and Awoiska speak, then all 4 of you, I think, can do a little bit of free flow chat amongst the 4 of you.
If I leave abruptly, it's because I have to take a pee.
Okay, that's your age, that's acceptable. Okay. Okay, Joy, would you like to say hello now? Where are you?
Yeah, I will say hello. Hello
Good.
to everyone. Very difficult to follow on from that, Duane. Gosh, what am I going to say? Well, it's for me, I think both yourself and Arthur sort of like opened the door for people like me who was studying at college, looking at your work when I first started. So this is my photograph. Oh my God, I've got all sort of shy.
Oh, Joy, well, I'm just holding up now the picture that you have chosen, and it's the Deborah Turberville picture of Jean Muir and 3 models in Jean Muir's house. And so this is the picture that Joy chose as the photograph that was very instrumental in her life. And I think maybe did in some way change your life, Joy. But I think you should begin with when you saw that Jean Muir, that Deborah Tuberville picture, because that's when it really began.
Yeah, for me, I mean, like the Deborah Tuberville picture I saw before I'd even gone to college or anything. I was completely obsessed with fashion photography. Well, not fashion photography. I was interested in fashion magazines, and I spent a lot of my time looking at them, obviously noticing my own absence within that sort of theatre. But, you know, I really that was all I was looking at. And I was also really interested in women photographers at that time, because there weren't that many around that were, you know, being published. I'm sure there were lots of women around taking pictures. So people like, you know, Tessa Traeger, Olivia Parker. I mean, like so that was where I was looking at things. But the thing about Deborah Tuberville's picture, because when you asked me sort of like what photograph or what photograph changed my life or most influenced me, and I'd completely forgotten about that, because I think initially I'd chosen another one that somebody else had chosen, and then I went back and looked at all my notebooks, because I keep all my rubbish, and I'm going to share my screen actually, because it might make a bit more sense. I'm going to try to share my screen. I don't know if I do know how to do that. Have I managed to do that? Yes. So if I can do the whole there. So you can. So this is a photograph, and I mean, I didn't really think about it as you know, sort of like this photograph until I found it back in this book, and I realized that this particular image has haunted almost every photograph I've ever taken. And I think at the time I was at college, yes, I mean, like the American photography was very influential, but someone like me who was very studio bound, and I was very much interested in the idea of narratives and stories and performance, and that's what I actually sensed in this photograph. And I realized that, I mean, like I looked at a lot of her work, and I just completely loved it, because it took you to another place. And then I've been, since we decided we were going to do this, I decided to have a look at stuff in my old boxes and portfolios and things, and I found these images and realized that I've been trying to, this is like from very early on, I've been trying to do that same picture over and over again as a baby photographer, and the idea of photographing things that aren't there, or constructing things. And I think with both Duane's work and with Arthur's work, the idea of the constructed image was something that was really important to me, and I didn't know that's what it was, but I was playing with the material and making my pictures, the pictures that you couldn't see that, but it was, and I think again I was also really interested and I think influenced by Toshiriko, and the idea of theatre. So what's not there, and even when I had jobs, I would still be trying to construct that pictures. And I said that same picture of Deborah Tuberville's of Jean Muir, but just in the way in which I was positioning things within the frame. And I was working, I work on 5:4, work on a medium format. And when I left college and I was photographing myself, which is what I did for many years, again, this idea of that stillness within that photograph and that silence was really important. And I suppose, yeah, in a way, I was performing within all of these photographs, and they weren't perfect, and but that didn't matter. It was all about the dream and the imagination. And even when I photographed other people, again, it was about the imagination. It wasn't about them necessarily engaging with what was happening outside of the frame, but they were creating or being a world within the frame. And yeah, and so you could project what you wanted onto that, but that it wasn't a literal thing. And I think even when I was doing residency, so this is a residency I did in Sri Lanka, again, that idea of trying to construct in a particular way and creating a dream. So even things that were or weren't there, and then and later on, sort of like with these lumen prints. So one of the things about the lumen prints I made these last year during lockdown, And what really, they came out of my walks, what really interested me was the idea of the last breath and the breath being invisible. But whenever you worked with the plants, if they were fresh, then the paper would record this last breath, which is something you couldn't actually physically see, but something that was there. And the same with this lumen print as well. It's sort of like, it creates like an aura around it. And then again, back with, this is my most recent piece of work, which is from a film which is called Seeds of Empire. Again, it was about sort of like the performance and inhabiting and sort of like thinking about the mind rather than trying to create something that was very literal. So it's all about things that you cannot see. So it's quite interesting to listen to Arthur actually talk about those things. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and come back into the room. But I just needed to illustrate what it was I was doing, and it was quite nice to see Arthur hold up that book, The Teapot Opera, because I have that book. That was one of my favorite birthday presents, along with The Weighing the Planets of Olivia Parker. But I mean, like, I think the photograph that I've chosen, I think I've continued to try and make that picture. I mean, like, she haunts me. And I think forever she will haunt me. That's silence, and I don't know, for me it's almost like a perfection which I will never reach.
But what is so interesting, Joy, that you talked about the sort of staging and the sort of the space and the calmness that is in that picture, but it's also in Arthur's and in Duane's work, you can find that sort of the narrative element, but it's also about the space, and there's actually something quite spiritual. And even though that was a whistle-stop tour through your work, I mean, at the speed of lightning, what is so nice is that there's, I mean, from all three of you, there's this kind of depth of serious involvement in your work, and that you actually are presenting it quite lightly, but in fact, for all of you, there might be something that you speak about lightly, but it is serious. It's a very serious intent.
Yeah, I mean, I think my work is very serious, even though I don't actually pretend that it's not serious. That is serious work. But it's not polemic in any sort of way. So it's for people to bring their own reading and their own experience to it. But and it also it takes me a long time to make a picture. The physical making of the image is quick, but the actual coming to photography or coming to the image is such a long process. I mean, like, take me 10 years to make a picture, because I'm trying to think about how to distill this. And well, I'm not thinking about how to distill it. It's being distilled just by everyday experience. But
something that's interesting, because I mean, a long ongoing project with the Kalahari Desert, you've got, and the sort of the disappearing voices that you are also weaving into your photography, and it's audio, and it's, I mean, I think that this is many years in the making, isn't it, Joy?
Yeah, nearly 20 years, still not a picture. Well, I mean, like, with something like that that's so sensitive, it's sort of like, how do you image something? How do you present something like that into the world, where it's been presented so often in a way where people make assumptions about what that should be? I mean, like, if you think about like the people I've been working with in the Kalahari and the impact of colonialism on their very being. So there are images of them that are in medical museums that they have never seen, or of their ancestors, where they're actually framed within a particular context. And it's sort of like that thinking about unframing and not to be their voice, because they have their own voice, but their voice has been erased because the language has disappeared. And to me, it's sort of like a very complex thing. And so that's why it's taking a long time.
Extremely complex, yes, extremely. But I mean, I mean, not that it was humorous exactly, but I mean, the films that you made that were in the Danielle Arnaud gallery, I mean, beautiful sound that you made with those films, that the text was taken from a weather forecast diary, or a reporting of weather in the 1800s. And it was extraordinary. It would be things like, sunny morning, hurricane gale, pleasant evening. I mean, and it was like, there was this, and so it was very, very beautiful the way that you were bringing text and sound and film together. I mean,
well, they're literally from Hans Sloane's journal, which was in 1688.
1680, it's now 200 years out, sorry.
Yeah, and the sound actually isn't me. It's because it was a collaboration between myself and Philip Miller, who's this incredible composer, extraordinary man, who, and we put that work together remotely. So he's in Cape Town and I'm in London, and we're locked down, the pair of us, and we're trying to make a work together. And for me, I think for now, it's probably the best work I've made. But it was my first time of actually collaborating with someone, I think properly in that way. It was just it was extraordinary, fantastic.
On your website, is there any way of people linking to that?
No, but I must update my website, which is what I say every day. But I will put that up. I mean, I will put some more work of that. I think you can see it on Instagram. Right. Some of it's up on Instagram and on Danielle and Arnaud's page on her website. There's quite a lot.
But what I think is, I mean, from what Duane was saying at the very beginning, it's what you don't see that is so important in that work that you've just made. Is you have all of the elements, but you absolutely need to actually think and read it through and understand and appreciate what it is. So, I mean, I think that's what's, I think what you might have learned from Arthur and from Duane, you've now made into something that is your own, dealing with very different issues. But in fact, what I think you, and in fact, Awoiska that we're going to talk to next, you all share something that is actually, I think, quite spiritual, and that you do invest a lot of yourself, but in that way you kind of give power to the people that are looking at the work for them to actually really appreciate it. And that, I think, is very nice. I think that is really nice. So I think, are you happy to hand on now to Awoiska?
I have. I just had one thing to say.
Sure.
I suppose in thanks to Arthur and Duane, is sort of like they actually opened the door and made, gave the freedom to actually construct images, whereas my contemporaries or people I was at college with in my undergraduate, when I didn't really know it, I didn't know anything about photography at all. I just knew that I wanted to understand that medium. But they were all going off and taking real pictures. And I felt a bit sort of like, oh my God, I'm not a real photographer. But I mean, like looking at Duane's work and Arthur's work, I thought, oh yeah, there is a place for someone like me in the world.
Yes.
I'll hand over now to Awoiska.
That's so nice. Thank you, Joy. Good. Okay, Awoiska, would you like to say a few words? I think that you've been waiting very patiently, and now is your turn. And I know that you probably had a little time to recuperate because you just finished at Unseen, which is, you've been doing so many exhibitions, and now to do the art fair as well, to speak to probably 150 people today already, and now to do this. But anyway, it's lovely that you're here.
It's wonderful to be here, and it's wonderful to listen to what you've three told. But you all had this fair last week, so yeah, continue. It's good they are there again, the fairs. Yeah, it's beautiful you say, Zelda, that we all have this hidden, or maybe not hidden, I always find it a bit, I'm reluctant to say the word spiritual, because I think it sometimes frightens persons, because it may seem unrational, and it's a zone that is not always comfortable for everyone. But then I think we are animals, right? So and in connection with, hopefully often enough, with the ground we stand on and the earth we stand on, which has some sort of spiritual vibe always. So that's what I was thinking when you just mentioned this. Yeah, you're going to show the image that, for me, I don't know if did it change my life? That's it really helped understanding things when I did not know yet what to understand yet, and thinking of this Bill Brandt image again these days, or last weeks when you invited me, I really, of course, do I want to see it, or is it really happening that in the first years after I found or saw this image, it did not immediately influence my practice. But if I now see the images that, and I will show a collection in a minute by sharing my screen, I think in some sort of, but I can't yet really put my head around it, but that's so interesting that revisit, you say this so beautifully in English, revisiting this picture, I understood already better my work, because that's the whole tour, right? For many years, try to understand yourself with the work we are making. And then you think you start to understand it, and then this raises already new questions, which brings you to make new work, which that's a beautiful perpetuum mobilem, I think. And so I was around 25 when I saw this image, after I had just quit after 3 years studying architecture design. So I did not finish these studies because it made me extremely unhappy, because there were so many rules. You were drilled, of course, you have to understand all these technical parts, otherwise everything collapses what you design and want to build. But also teachers saying, no, you cannot put a window there. Why not? Just because all this. And already before that, I had quit another studies, tourism, because I thought I want to travel and live abroad. So what to do? Well, study tourism, which was also a bad choice. And then I quitted that, and then I quitted this architecture studies. And for 1 year, I really did not know what to do then. I was 25. And then I did do a simple photography course somewhere outside in the city. And this was the eureka moment for me, which is, I thought of, this is what I have. So I have to go back to art school and study photography. And then I was, of course, years older than the rest of the class, but the teachers really gave me all the freedom to explore whatever I wanted, because after this architecture studies, I had become so insecure, and of course teachers are really putting you down when they see you are not in the right place. But then I really also saw what I had learned, and how to that I learned how to look at things differently. So when I saw this image, there were not really strong theoretical classes, but one time a week we went home to Vrouwtje Hoekstra, who is she had her house full of cats and full of books, until into the toilet, all these bookshelves. And here I found this book and that picture of Bill Brandt, and that I could not, of course, if I see the rest of the interiors and the bodies photographed, you can notice that it's someone else photographing. But with these legs, I thought, did she make this picture? How, or if it was someone else or Mr. Bill Brandt, and how? So I found this very intriguing, and this really introduced me to the awareness of perceiving and of the looking and the position of the maker, and the possible palpable presence of the maker or not. So this was really an image that made me start to think about it. And I think for a while, it maybe also slept these questions and these thoughts, but I noticed in my recent, or of the last 10 years, works made in nature, that I select or photograph, or then already I select, of course, when I choose to photograph. My bodily position is so important. And actually, I just found them this afternoon back when I, so after seeing this Bill Brandt images, so for the first time I could make a work without there were these technical issues to as in architecture to note. So I thought, I'm just gonna make beautiful work, and no teacher should tell me this is just too aesthetic. I thought I want to, so I want to show it like this. So I asked 2 models. I hope, oh, it's a bit, yeah. So I asked 2 models in the studio to pose, and then there's a male image. So these were sort of studies I was making. And of course, if you see it like this, then suddenly you are the observant, right? There is a whole different relation to that body, and not that this, it was just nice to play with this at that time. And okay, I'm now going to share my screen. Yep. And these are the years, so finding that Bill Brandt picture was, so I was a BA student. This is already work that I made after my master's that I did in the south of Holland, because all of this was happening in the north where I was born. Then I went to this MA, and what is it actually, why I want to make images? This was in all these years after graduating. I was still trying to find out. And I think here I feel still sort of the observant of my surrounding, and this is actually the image that brought me to the landscape. I feel I've told this quite often. This is a sort of key work of mine, because this ground there, this earth finally, and it shows so strongly the difference from the cultural world above. But this picture, after a few months hanging on the wall, I thought, I have to go there. That's what all these years I was looking for, but I did not know what it was. But the connection with the source of where we are from, where our bodies have been for thousands of years living on Earth, nature. Still, there were some houses in the beginning of exploring in the landscape where and how to photograph. First, still quite in the darkness, but at one point also in daylight. And I selected here images from the last 10 years where I feel, and that I hope also the viewer can experience this. But of course, it depends also if you stand in front of these, if I print them, hang them on the wall, what is the height? And of course, now we are with our head and our ratio and our eyes looking at the screen. But I think I always photographed when I also, looking through the viewfinder, that I could feel it, there was a bit of imbalance or being puzzled. What is the scale? Or here we can see it's a large forest, but I'm almost like a bird flying. So the ground and earth, it can give these strong roots and feel grounded, but it took also years to see, and that probably when I select those to print, that they also, that they're not always clear in where you are in your human or bodily size. And bodily size, is that right English? And also here, there is a very thin line. I don't know if you can see it somewhere on the 2/3 above. There is it's where the sea touches the sky, but you almost can't see it. And also again here, yeah, there is this confusement, I think. And why is this still, why is the Bill Brandt picture still important here? I think I try to leave myself out as a maker, that a viewer, I never tell where I photograph. That's not important, but I hope that there is just the intimate relation of the viewer with this scene that I am showing, and that I, the maker, that I'm not present, that I don't want to interfere with the viewer and the work. Of course, in the first place, this is all the work that I'm making for myself, but then if I am communicating it, I hope I'm not in the way. That's why I don't want to give titles with although it's sometimes tempting to think of some poetic few words. I like that when I make a book, that at least I can choose one word to maybe give a bit of a direction, but for the rest,
Do you think it's an idea to talk about scale of this? Because I mean, the prints that when you make the prints, they're beautiful.
Thank you. Well, yeah, the scale, you mean literally of the prints?
Yeah.
Yeah. For example, let me go. Oh, wrong way. This one. Yeah, this is the only picture that I dare to print to 70 centimeters high. So this is a, that's it took a long time for me to dare to print such a, and it's in 2 panels, otherwise the fiber paper, because I print fibers by hand, the silver gelatins. So it's 2 panels shown next to each other. And this one really could, survive this high, large size. But also, yeah, sometimes it is just better to well, also this one is, for example, 140 wide, which really, I think, touches the stomach or the unconscious, the core, just the area of the belly, and I always like to experiment. Yes, sometimes I can do that when it's just a smaller print, like this one. I only printed this small because I think when it's large, this whole rock becomes so overwhelming that it's, yeah, it is hard to explain because, of course, these are such intuitive decisions. But I like to vary with that and to always, the goal is to make this connection with the viewer standing in front of the work, how it can touch the unconscious inside, and not only the ratio in the head, and that it only enters the eye. It should enter the rest of our system. And that's also the choice of when I make an image. I feel I'm not looking anymore, and that's the spiritual part. Maybe I only photograph when it hits something that's beyond the view and the eyes and our brain. This is, I don't know, but maybe now this takes too long, Zelda, because you've
got about another 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well,
or 4 minutes.
We're going to go to the goats.
Oh, we've got to go to the goats.
This is a misty peat, huge peat area that's it's a nature reserve in the east of the Netherlands. It's already far to the east, and then if you are in one of the last bigger small cities in the east, you still have to drive an hour, and then this is close to the German border. This used to be a huge, bigger part of swamp, peatlands. Of course, 3/4 of the Netherlands used to be peatlands centuries ago, which of course has been all dug out because we made the ground ready to live on, and of course we burned the peat to become warm. In this area, there is this biennale at this moment, and I was invited a year before COVID stopped everything to photograph in this area. And I never had made a serious work in my own flat, small Dutch country, because there is no wilderness. If there is preserved wilderness like this area, that's good, because of course this has to be taken care of, but you never can get lost. And I like to make my work there where I feel I don't want, I never got lost, and I don't want that, but at least you feel you can just go and hide into hills or exotic trees or even rough stones. But flatness like this and with this fog has not ever been my first choice. So this was challenging when they asked me. So I made lots of images in this barren flat area. Here and there luckily there were trees where I felt I could feel some solace and comfort, what I often like to find in these natural areas. In the meantime, there was an uncle who said, did you know that our family is traced back until 1700? They came from this area. This together with in the mornings that there is this fog, it's in the Middle Ages, they thought these were white witches, right? So, or even until 1850, they thought that was all this ghosty area. So this made me think that the images should be present, not present. What's my own presence, family presence. So also the images I wanted to show them, but not being fixed, printed, hung on plastic, or, well, here it's printed on plastic, but this is how I tried with tests. This is printed on glass already, testing somewhere outside of Amsterdam. So this is not in that peat area, but on my bike in Amsterdam. I'm showing it to someone. That's not important, sorry. And then here are the final pieces. And of course, it was very, I try to imagine where to place them. There are 6 panels. Of course, they show different character, if there's sun or no sun. So, and here I'm really lower with my camera to photograph this, but this to leave the white cube and the white wall and the framed images. It opened 2 months ago, and I'm really happy that the kurk is van de fles, we say in Holland. You say this in English, the cork is of the bottle, because I have been doing recently another project with an installation instead of only working 2D. And these images were made in the beginning, but at the second day when I returned, I found all these scratches on these glass plates, and we printed everything double, because we thought, what if there will be some sort of hooligans trying to kick these glass plates, when can it break? But the scratches that I saw on the second day, like this, I thought, who did not saw that their child was scratching with a stone on this? So I was so appalled, but luckily, standing from a distance, these scratches are not visible, but these I already mentioned are these lovely goats. Oh, this was a clip, or maybe I can't play it. Oh yes, here it is. 20 seconds. It's so, they lick the plates in the morning, they lick the dew off of it, and they scratch their hands. So, yeah. But still, to make these installations in new situations, for example, this opened a month ago at Noorderlicht Festival. This was a commission to make work in an earthquake area, also in the north. So I've been making lots of work now in this last weird year close to my home ground. And here I try to for the audience coming in this space. Of course, it's a really heavy roof. It's an empty old cinema. And stepping in, and here it's not that clear, but it's like a half of a circle, and the images sort of embrace you. So I'm. This last year, I finally broke out of the presenting the flat image on the wall, and now how can I, which ways of exhibiting can I try to really emphasize and to make aware the bodily position of the viewer and with the work. And I really can see this relation of my fascination I had with seeing this first image of Bill Brandt. Thank you.
Oh, that's gorgeous, Awoiska. Thank you so much. I'm so glad we ended with the goats. No, I think what you actually described is really, I mean, your prints are so beautiful that they almost kind of, you're lost for words, because it is a physical experience when you look at your prints, because that sort of concentration of everything that you've seen kind of emanates out from the print. And I think that you said somewhere that it's like that you want that sort of universal sort of identifying with the core of existence. And I think it happens. I mean, that magic. And it's something that Duane said right at the very beginning, and Arthur, that they're not really interested in the documentary so much as what you don't see and what you can feel and what you can actually add in for yourselves. I mean, I think all four of you actually share this incredibly beautifully. And it was actually Emma at the FT who actually chose the four of you, because how could I, out of more than 50 amazing people in the book, how could I choose four? So it was lovely that Emma chose you, and in fact that you've sort of interleaved so nicely. Now, someone has asked a question, because Duane shared a secret. Michael Pritchard of the Royal Photographic Society has asked if you, Awoiska, you, Joy, and you, Arthur, would like to share a secret.
To share
Now, it can be as humble or as profound as you like. I'm going to share a secret with you because this is a particularly very, very useful secret to share. When somebody has upset you on whatever level and you feel very cross with them, if you write their name on a piece of paper and put it in the freezer, it doesn't bother you anymore.
I must try that.
It works, let me tell you. And when I had to defrost the freezer the other day, I was so surprised at the names that popped out. It was defrosting. Okay, so Joy, it's your turn. What is your secret to share?
I haven't even thought of one yet.
Okay, Awoiska, have you got one?
Well, okay. It has to do with my work. I like to put in cuckoo's eggs.
But what?
Ooh.
Eggs? Cuckoo?
Cuckoo's eggs, yeah.
Ah.
So
Ooh.
there is a series that's supposed to be no. But that happened recently in the last 2 years. Now it feels like we are in a room with 5, but there's yes. So there's a commission, and then it's a certain area I photograph, and then I think, yeah, but I want to slip in this image that's made completely somewhere else, and that's what I have done now 2 times. And I thought I want to keep on doing that.
Okay, Arthur, what is your secret that you're going to share?
No, I think my secrets are in my work. You just already have to kind of poke around. There.
You haven't got a special one. And so, Duane, have you got another secret?
No, but I can make one up in a minute if you give me a second.
Okay, you've got 1 minute then, because I think we're soon going to have to actually wrap up because we've gone over our hour.
I think my secret, if I ever reveal the secret, it won't be a secret anymore, so I can't say it.
Oh.
That's very good.
I thought you were going to say, well, I've got a secret, but I'm going to keep it in my head.
Well, even better. I mean, you know, because if I tell you the secret, then it's not a secret. So it's a conundrum. It's a riddle. If you tell the secret, is it still a secret? No. So I can't tell it to you. It would violate the rules of secrecy.
That's quite good.
I like to get more secrecy.
Secrecy. Yeah, Awoiska, have you had time to think now? Oh no, yours is cooking.
It's
Joy.
It's Joy
That has to think.
I'm trying to think of a secret. I don't have any secrets. I mean, my secrets. Do I have secrets? Oh, I don't know.
No, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but would any of you like to speak to any? I mean, between the four of you, would you like to ask each other some questions?
Well, I wanted just to mention to Joy how much I loved those pictures of Deborah. And there's one frame she did where you saw the picture, and then it's like a still from a movie. Then it was a little bit of a frame above and a little bit of frame below. I thought that was really exciting because the framing it between the photograph between two half frames suggested a continuity as if this was part of it. And I can't pronounce your name, Awoiska, so I'll just call you Cutie. So Cutie, you know, those landscapes, and I love Bill Brandt. I agree with you. Bill Brandt is spectacular and very theatrical, and your landscapes are theatrical. Those silver and the lighting is stunning. It's all about lighting. Years ago, there was a Marlene and Dietrich, after the Second World War, had a big successful nightclub act at the Hotel Café de Paris in London, and Noel Coward gave an introduction, and at the end of the introduction to her act, he said, and sex was a matter of lighting. I thought, I was 21. What? Sex? Are you nuts? Sex is a matter of light. But everything is a matter of lighting. Life is, it's all about, and the lighting in those the landscapes were ethereal. They were not, they were just very romantic. And the idea that those wonderful animals might have scratched, and I love most of all at the end with the animals going through those beautiful photographs. The photographs are mystical. They're taken at night. They're not real. It's reality beyond reality. It's a shadow. It's almost her photographs, your photographs are like the shadow of reality of landscapes. So you look at this beautiful landscape and you're touched by it. And that what you did, you photographed the shadow that landscape cast. That's what you took it to another dimension. It's a shadow of a landscape. It's not the real landscape. It's brilliant.
Thank you, Duane.
Okay.
That'll be $1. Compliments come at $1.
Thank you.
5 compliments for $4.
Okay, I've got a question that's been asked by Wasi, saying, good evening, afternoon to all, and thank you for the sharing. Joy, you talked about the years it can take for you to make an image. Is this a conscious process that you can talk about some more, or rather something you realize only once you physically make the image?
No, I know that it's a conscious, I think it's for me, it's a struggle. And I think that's been the issue with the Kalahari, because it's so difficult to do that. But I think with all of my work, so even the work that I showed at the end that Arthur talked about with the shadow, with the image coming from both the top and the bottom, so the image is in the middle of another image, two images that are happening, is that works from Sloan. And I remember being introduced to Sloan during my Nesta Fellowship by Bob Bloomfield, and thinking about doing this work from 2007. So that's like 12 years or something before it actually came to fruition. And I think it's not like I don't do anything else at the same time. It's sort of like it sits at the back and it's like brewing, almost like wine or something. So it's sort of like distilling and waiting for, I don't know, the right imagery to happen. yeah, I mean, like I never know exactly what it is it's going to be until I actually start making it. But I have been percolating for a long time before it comes into being. And it is all about a construction, but the construction, it sort of seeps out of all of me. And it's everything that I look at. So I look at books, I read things, I listen to things, I watch terrible soaps on the TV. These all help to inform me.
That's your secret.
Is that my secret? I watch soaps.
Okay, I've got another question or comment from Dai Minakuchi. It says, you are all quite mystical as photographers, very thoughtful. What do you think that you would have done if you were not photographers? Or may I ask, what were you interested in before you were photographers? Theatre and philosophy seem interesting to you all. Great to hear you talk so openly about your work. I'm interested as you've all brought something different to the photographic frame. And there's another little addition that says, it is photography that connects to all of the five senses. Space seems important to all of these photographers too. So who would like to respond to that?
Arthur, you go first.
No. No.
Yeah, how mystical are you, Arthur?
Well, it's rather interesting. No, I am a kind of dreamy person, a little bit. I think, I don't know the lives of the other photographers, but I am a little reclusive. I don't really know what the cumulative reasons for that is, but I think that informs my work quite a bit.
But do you think you would have been a philosopher or in the theatre if you hadn't gone into sort of the visual arts? Do you think you would have gone into something else?
I think perhaps in a previous life, I was a kind of a Japanese monk.
Oh, nice, very nice.
Yes.
Okay, Duane, now it's your turn.
Well, I love to read, and I have the attention span of a 89-year-old, as opposed to Joy. If I think of something on Monday, I want it done by Friday or at least Monday afternoon. I have a huge amount of energy and enthusiasm. My great assistant, Josiah, works on long-term projects. I would fall asleep after the second day. I'm completely instant gratification. And when I get stuck, I write more than I take photographs. I write every day. But when I get stuck, I go to Beckett, and I also go to, not Mallarmé, Rimbaud. I love Rimbaud. Illuminations. There are certain, and I love Joyce. We made a lot of little movies, about 35 of them, and we did one about Baudelaire and Joyce and Ulysses, rather. So I take a lot from writers. I identify more with writers. That's why I said earlier, I like Tom Stoppard so much, really. But it's writing.
Love, yeah, he writes superbly. Awoiska, what about you?
Yes, I think I wanted always to be an archaeologist.
Archaeologist. Oh.
Yes, but then you had to, of course, what's all the you had to scientist. I'm now trying to name at school all the directions you had to follow, and I thought, okay, no, this is not. But I think that I don't know if it would still fit me. And I also thought I would want to be a museum restorer, restorer in museum for
so conservation, yeah.
But now I would think, nah, No, I mean,
Not creative enough for you. No, no, no.
no. So I'm an archaeologist, yes, and I think it's a beautiful question. Yeah.
So
Me.
Joy, did you have?
I wanted to be everything, which is why I chose to do photography. I wanted to be a scientist. I wanted to do humanities. I wanted to do arts. I wanted to do everything. And I think with photography, you could do all of those things. So I like messing around in the darkroom and in the labs and experimenting with things. I like thinking and reading. I like history. I like sociology. And I'm very nosy. And I like soaps. Maybe I'd be a TV reviewer. Then maybe I would sit and watch television all day.
Okay, this is going to be the last question. My name is Joni, and I'm an 18-year-old photography student from Brighton. And I'd like to ask the panelists what they think about the Nietzsche quote, "I've just read Schopenhauer, now I have to get rid of him. As a photographer, is it important to forget our influences?"
I don't know, for me, I think you might want to forget them, but I think they come back and they haunt you, or they have in my own case.
Duane?
None of the above.
And Arthur?
You get the question exactly. You're an 18-year-old drug dealer, and you're in what was the rest of the question?
Joni has just read, she wants to know what you think about the Nietzsche quote, "I've just read Schopenhauer, now I have to get rid of him. As a photographer, is it important to forget our influences?"
Oh, absolutely. You have to unlearn. That's why I'm glad I didn't go to photo school, because they teach you rules, then you have to unlearn rules, and it's much harder unlearning than it is to learn. No, I think you must unlearn everything. And there's a wonderful book called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. You must always be the beginner, because when you do something for the first time, you bring great attention to it. You follow a recipe. It says a quarter cup of pepper, and you go quarter, yeah. And then after you do it all, you go like this, like Julia Child. But you must always. So I will always be a freshman. I will never be a senior. I will never graduate. I will always be the beginner. You must never grow up. You must never become the.
That's a perfect response. I like that. Okay, well, I think we're just about finished, unless any of you would like to ask any questions of me.
Zelda, how did you get us all together? How did you?
This has been a labor of love, I'll tell you. I've been in touch with a lot. I have talked a lot. I think other people might have been quite quiet in lockdown. I have talked a lot.
Are we going to get paid by the word? And if so, I hope somebody's counting.
It's one of those things that, like you said, that the things that you don't see are the most important. That's probably going to be the way.
My takeaway was Joy saying she likes to mess around in a dark room. I think she should be very careful for what she wishes for.
Zelda, is there, of course, I haven't seen the book yet myself, but was there an image that you have chosen for yourself, or is there one?
I decided the book is about, excuse me, it's about everybody else. It's not about me.
Mm-hmm.
And what I have done over the last 40 odd years is I have been listening to really, really interesting stories and really getting to know pictures and getting to know the people that made them. And I think it's important. Of course, I have a picture. Of course, I have one, but it's not to be disclosed.
Okay. Zelda? Hello?
Yeah. Yes, Arthur.
Okay. I did think of my secret.
Oh, hooray!
Have a minute?
Yes, let's go. Let's go with this.
And I'm slightly blushing. Okay, think of this in the okay, I'm in the 1970s, and gay bars had back rooms, okay? Little staircases and things where men would congregate in these dark spaces and have sex, more or less. And so I was never really the type that people were interested in, but I could kind of mill around all these bodies. And I'd go up to these guys, usually they were in tight jeans, and I'd rub their crotches. And I was thrilled by them going from flaccid to hard. And then I'd leave. It was like my fetish. And I think that's so like the creative act in a way. It's soft, we make it solid. We give form, like a bud going to flower. And so I think that's very much my kind of work in a way, the story of lots of my books, that we kind of take the formless and give it a kind of...
And give it shape.
We make it erect.
Yes, exactly. It hit you in the eye. But what's interesting also, because we're in the 20th century, there's an element of fear. I think almost all our lives are pervaded by this anxiety and fear. And people joke that my name is Tress, and I'm always trespassing. And I realize why that's so important for me to do is this sense of the security guard, that you will be smacked down, that police will come. And I think that what makes a lot of all our lives as artists so full of this kind of taut emotion. And it's also the life of animals. They live within this world of fear. And it kind of what helps them survive. That's my secret.
Well, that's a good one, Arthur. It's a good one to end on. Yeah.
I thought
very good. Very good. Okay, well, I think I'm going to just thank everybody that's been here as an audience, and everyone that's in the book, and everyone that has made the book come to life in all of its shapes and forms. And hopefully soon you'll all be the recipient of a book. And the artcinema.art link has got an online shop. I think the Amazon has had big glitches, but the artcinema.art is the way to get the book. But I mean, I just hope that you're going to like it. The stories, you will be amazed at some of the stories. If you haven't been amazed by this evening, which I have been amazed, you will be amazed at some of the stories in the book as well. So thank you all hugely for all of your contributions, and thank you for the questions. And I bet everyone's a bit hungry for dinner now, or lunch as it might be in America. Or maybe, Arthur, what is it, breakfast for you?
No, it's lunchtime.
It's lunchtime, okay. Okay, well, thank you so much. And
thank you, Zelda, thank you. And thank you, everyone. It's fantastic.
Duane, thank you for calling me cutie from New York, because that's what I miss, New York, and men just saying, hi, cutie, how you doing? So thank you for doing that. And Emma.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you all. That was just so tremendous. Thank you so much. Thank you, Zelda. I mean, yeah.
Well, I think it's been wonderful to have these people together. Really, really wonderful. And I mean, I think it is like, life is so unexpected. We never know what's around the corner. And this is really a cause of celebration to be able to do this. It's lovely. Thank you, Emma, and the FT and Photo London.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
It was great to meet everyone as well.
Yes, Joy.
Hopefully I'll see everyone in real life one day.
In the flesh.
In the flesh.